Your Excellency, it's nice to see you again. Welcome to the program.
Nice to see you too.
Let me start this time from the state of the country, the state of the nation. When we last spoke, it was before COVID, and some would say it was a very different country from now, even if that was the only reason. But in terms of politics, everybody's eyes are on 2023, it would appear, particularly in the political class. What do you make of the scramble, shall we call it, for 2023, even though it is still 18 months or more away?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's normal in any democratic nation where elections are held. I lived in the US for most of my career life, first education and then working. And it's the same, to be honest with you. It's the same. The moment the President of the United States of America will finish his first 2 years, 2.5 years, the rest is politics. You know, they are moving one end to another and things like that. In our own environment, it's a little bit different, in fact, because a lot of people have nothing to do. Some politicians have no other career. They consider politics career. As a result of that, for them, it's not even the last 2 years. It's actually the moment after the swearing in, the politics begins. You know, it's unfortunate, but that is exactly the reality. You know, so for that reason, what is happening in Nigeria today is indeed normal. You know, it's something that we expect is going to happen. A lot of people who are living are thinking, what next? You know, so because some of them have no other careers to go into, so they have to look for something to do. So some of them are looking for more appointments to do, more elective offices to fill in, and the rest of that. You know, so, but for others who are in the office for the first time like us, and then some of the legislators and the rest of that are looking forward to see if we can come back, you know, and things like that. So, to be honest with you, I don't see anything different from what has been happening in the past. Now, what is a little bit peculiar now, rather than what happened in 2019, is concerning the office of the president, about where is it going to go again. You know, President Muhammadu Buhari, being from the northern part of the country, has been there for 8 years. So by 2023, and so people will be looking forward to, is it going to rotate in the spirit of this rotational presidency? So I think that's the only thing that will be different, you know, from it. You know, otherwise, if it is normal politics, it goes on.
Now, I'm happy you mentioned the fact that a lot of attention is focused on that, especially because for the first time in that period, President Buhari is not on the ballot. And so within the ruling party, there is jostling, shall we say. It appears as if the governors are at the forefront of that, perhaps even including some of those you said are also looking for the next thing and all of that. But in terms of the APC, what do you think of what's going on? It's like there's also a battle for control within the APC, and it looks like the governors they've got the party by the throat, shall we say. Is that a fair comment?
I don't think it is control. I think it's issue of stability. I think the party at the moment, you know, other people will explain it differently or look at it differently. But the way personally I look at it is, Muhammadu Buhari as an individual has been actually almost like the party. You know, he was the party in CPC. When he came into, a lot of people say Muhammadu Buhari has guaranteed number of votes. And depending on who you ask, you get different numbers. Is it 10 million? Is it 12 million? Is it 14 million? Whatever million it is, Muhammadu Buhari is seen by the ordinary man, the common man, you know, as somebody who is there, who has integrity, who is incorruptible, and who will bring corrections. So a lot of these people are there. Now, the Muhammadu Buhari that has all these qualities will not be on the ballot, okay, in 2023. Therefore, there is concern about sustainability, about whether we can be able to sustain the aggressiveness of the party, the popularity of the party, and things like that. So there are concerns at different quarters. And I think that's the direction people are trying to do. Who takes that control? Is it the people? Is it some elected officials? Is it the National Assembly? Is it those working with Mr. President? Or is it the president himself at the background? And I think those are the kind of things that people are looking at. However, governors are leaders of their parties, at the various states. Every governor is seen as, like the president is seen as the leader of the party nationally. The governors are seen as leaders of the parties at their various regions, various states. And we have the 36 states of the Federation, which means in every state you have a leader plus Mr. President who is overseeing that leader. And I think that's why you see the governors playing a key role, in being able to do this. So in so many states where the governors are in very good terms with the other stakeholders, you don't hear too much of a problem. Now, where the governors are not in good terms with some of their stakeholders, now you hear some problem. And that is where the issue of control of the party comes in. Because somebody is saying, who is the leader? This is the leader. But who has the control over the next election is somebody else. And that is where you get that.
Now, the governors, taking the discussion a bit further, the governors seem to also be interested in this control issue as leaders of the parties, as you pointed out, at the states, also because that puts them in pole position to determine who gets what and how the general system operates. And I'll use the National Assembly as an example. That direct primary provision, we'll talk about some of the other provisions, but I want to start with the direct primary provision, seems to be opposed by the governors because it takes away that seeming power that they have to determine who gets what. And the National Assembly, some of the members to whom we have spoken say that the governors have been responsible for the high turnover of members of the National Assembly. So you come into the National Assembly this year, 3 years down the line, you're falling out with the governor of your state and he makes sure you don't get the ticket the next time, and that's the end of your budding legislative career, so to speak. Whereas in other places, legislators become better with time because they are able to say, is this again true? Is it?
Well, what is true is, let me start with the last statement you make. What is true is legislators get better as they stay longer. They become more experienced. They become more knowledgeable about the proceedings of the legislature. And in some other climates, they are able to pass, better bills for the progress of the nation. So I have wholeheartedly agree with that. Now, yes, we have a high turnover, of the legislators, especially at the National Assembly. Yes, there are so many places where the governors have been responsible, no doubt about it. But then it takes us back to the statement you made earlier, that the governors seems to be against the direct primary arrangement because they will lose that so-called control that you are talking about. Let me take it this way for you. When the argument was brought up, when we were invited for a meeting, and we were told, at our own meeting that the National Assembly seemed to have passed the bill for direct primaries. The issue we brought up then was, why do we want to box ourselves into an option, one option, and that's it? That was the question asked at the meeting. Unfortunately, that question was translated to be an opposition. Because we are saying that, why do you want to say it is only direct? God forbid, let's say we had another pandemic similar to what we had, and then there is going to be primary election. And during the pandemic, the COVID-19, you say that not more than so and so number should gather in one place. Direct primaries requires that people actually come out. Let me tell you one thing categorically, as Engineer A.A. Sule, I 100% believe that direct primaries is the best option that will involve all the people and will reflect true democracy. Personally, I believe in that. Personally, I support it. But what we are saying is that if you make it low, you actually push yourself into a corner that in case now there is a pandemic and you won't have that, what provision do you have next? So that's why we were suggesting, similar to what appears in our APC constitution. In our APC constitution, the first option is really consensus. It's not even direct or indirect. The first option is consensus. If consensus doesn't work, go for indirect. If indirect doesn't agree, go for direct. Okay? Those were the options. So we now said, all right, why don't you mention it and even say that the first option is direct primaries. If there is any other reason why direct could not be made, then look at options. But don't box yourself and say that direct or nothing else. That was only the discussion we had that I know. But unfortunately, before we came out of the meeting, there were all kinds of translations. Oh, governors will lose control. All governors, let me tell you, APC just conducted its congresses. The first word congresses were direct, because you needed to have the direct to build up on all the other indirect or consensus or whatever. So the very first option we had when we were carrying out the congresses at the what level was direct. Did the governors get what they want? I will tell you 90% yes. Because you see, when somebody is outside the state, with due respect, say Abuja, and then you have a governor who knows what he's doing in his home state, and if the governor is indeed a governor on ground, you travel to this village one time, you find out what the problems is, what you do here, you are all over the place, and you are solving people's problems on the ground. You will be afraid of direct? What sort of a governor will be that? Because at the end of the day, you will still get what you want. That is one. Two, we have monetized elections in this country, unfortunately. Unfortunately. So if you don't have the resources to stand election, it will be very difficult for you to stand election. So for that reason, it is going to play another role when it comes to direct. So it is now more difficult for somebody who doesn't have the resources to contest direct. The reason is you now have more people to worry about than when it is indirect, where it's just officials of the party that you have to worry about. Now you have more people. We have seen elections, not in Nasarawa, thank God, but we have seen in some other states where general elections are held, not even primaries. And we have seen where they are saying on TV, people were being given some thousands of naira for one vote. So you can imagine if somebody is going to win an election as a governor with 500,000 votes, and you are giving people 1,000 naira or 5,000 naira or so per vote. How much? What are you coming to do in that office? You understand? So now that is general election, and that is semi-direct. Because when you have direct, now you are going to have more situations to do that. So to be honest with you, that is my own understanding of it. But as far as I'm concerned, as a governor, I'm not against direct at all. In fact, I believe, as somebody who has been trained in the U.S., who has seen democracy from the U.S. point of view, I believe direct is the best option that people will be able to play democracy the way it's supposed to be. People will have a say. But in our own climate, the people say in some cases are actually paid for. So that's just my own explanation to that one.
Now, the other part of this is, of course, the credibility of the process that we talk about. And that has to do with how the election is conducted. Of course, primaries are a part of that. But there are some other parts of it that also became contentious. When they tried to talk about initially the issue of electronic transmission, some even went as far as saying, well, those who have access should be able to vote electronically, so you don't have crowds at the polling booths and leave the opportunities for some of the things that we had seen in the past. And then there was a counter-argument that, well, if you put all this faith in machines, what happens if someone gains control of those machines? are you not going to end up with the same result, which is a lack of credibility? But at the end of the day, the National Assembly, shall we say, was divided. But eventually they came around. Now they've passed the electronic transmission, and they say, where feasible, let's also do the electronic voting. But the original argument that said the issue of coverage, the issue of security of the system and so on, has not gone away. So, Governor Sule, where do you stand on this as someone who is a major participant in the process?
I think sometimes we try to walk before we can crawl. And I think that's part of the problem. I have had this argument many times. In America, it is this. In Ghana, it's this. It's in this. You see, this is Nigeria. Nigeria is not America. Nigeria is not Ghana. We have peculiarities about our own environment. So we have to look at our own environment and be fair to ourselves. Whatever process we are going to introduce, is it going to be feasible in our own country? Based on all the challenges that we have. You have mentioned a few of them. Security, for instance. Whether it is going to be electronic transmission or even manual transmission, there are places today that you can have elections. There are states where we couldn't have our congresses. Zamfara, for instance. Okay? Anambra, for instance. And the rest of that. Whether electronic or manual, we just couldn't because of the security challenges we have. There are places in the Northeast today that you can have any kind of election, whatever it is, you can have. So I think those are the kinds of peculiarities that we have. So we look, when the laws are being done, they are made for ideal situations. But we don't have ideal situations in our own country. You know, in our own country, we have so many situations that are not ideal, that are not the same with some of those countries that we want to copy. And I think that's the beginning of the problems for us. So can we just go ahead and come up with the bills and laws that are peculiar to Nigeria? Forget about how it is applied in other places. Peculiar to Nigeria and can work for Nigeria. You know. So electronic voting is what I have seen over and over. Again, I'm sorry, let me go back to where I know the most, the US. A lot of people in the US don't vote. So for that reason, because they work, people are busy. People don't care what government is doing. People are very busy, they are all over the place. But if it is something to go electronically and vote and just go to your work, people do that. Here, people want to vote. You know, Nigerians want to vote 10 times more than the Americans want to vote. You know, I'm telling you, Nigerians care about who becomes their leader 10 times more than Americans want to care, because things are working there. You know, so, but here, things are not working, so people are always looking for leaders that will come and make things work. So it's understandable. So it's not a negative thing that our people are very interested in who becomes their leaders. You know, so I think that's the direction that I'm taking. All these things are new to us in this country. You know, there are a lot of people. Let me tell you, I became the governor of Nasarawa State. The first meeting I had with the various ministries, I came to discover some people rose up to the position of PAMSECs, and they could not operate their computers. They didn't know how to do it. Give him his telephone, he's very good with his telephone. Put a desktop or laptop in front of him, he's confused. You know, because of the levels of the exposure that people have. Now, this is in the city now. Our main city is Lafia. Now, you can imagine when you move away from Lafia to some other place, what will happen? You know, these are the realities of the day. And look at our proximity to the federal capital. Okay? So, everything we have is right here. So, if that's the case, and we are so close to the federal capital, and we are still having this position, what will happen to others that may be a little bit away from some of this civilization? You know, and I think that is, for me, that's the concern. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong with electronic transmission. It's a perfect idea. It works in so many places. Nigerians have already made progress in the area of ICT today. I have seen the good work that NIDA was doing, even when Professor Pantami was still part of it, and the new management that comes in is also doing a very good job. They are training the people. But what percentage of the people actually are there? So I think that's the issue. Not whether a transmission is good or bad. It's wonderful. It's an excellent thing to be done.
As one of the 36 governors, I wanted to ask, would you be amongst those who have said, it is said, that President Buhari's successor must be one of you?
No. I don't believe his successor must be a governor. Definitely not. I don't belong to that group. I strongly believe that whoever we are bringing, deep down inside me, I'm thinking is somebody who will be able to keep this party together. Somebody that has the respect of the party. Somebody that also has the respect of the National Assembly today. And rather than being one of the governors, somebody that has the respect of the governors. Because the governors are the leaders of the party. If you bring somebody who is distrusted by the governors, most likely they are not going to support him. And I'm sorry to say, no matter how you look at it, if governors come together and say, we don't support this person, it may be very difficult for that person to win, with all the due respect. Because the governors are leaders of the party at the end. So the same thing with the National Assembly. The National Assembly to respect that. So does that have to be a governor for that? Definitely not. In fact, you may end up having one Nigerian, that may probably not be in politics today and is drafted to come in and will have all these qualities that I'm telling you about. Nigeria needs somebody to come in and be able to take this country and keep us united with all the security challenges that we are having, with the divisions of fear of the country when being disintegrated. You need somebody that has the heart, to come in and do this.
Well, I raised that because, you mentioned it earlier in your answer to the very first question when you talked about the debate over which the rotational presidency and which part of the country and all of that. And from some of the analysis that I've read, part of what is complicating the discussion is what I have just said, that there are some of your colleagues who, as you mentioned, are in their second term. They are finishing their term as governor and they're, looking at what's next after that. And some of them are interested in being president. That then becomes a complication, if you like, in the sense that they will be putting themselves out, some of them, in spite of the zoning formula. Because there's now, there's the argument over why should there be zoning in a country where everybody has the legal right to aspire to the presidency, and that in any case, zoning is not in the APC, for those who are in APC. It's not in the APC constitution. Do you see what I mean now by the complication?
It's not really a complication. Again, I'm sorry, back to say, I was not in politics then, because when I came back to Nigeria, I didn't go into politics. I was MD of African Petroleum, I was MD of Dangote, I was, so I wasn't into politics, but at least I was from outside watching what was going on, and I was very close to some of them. When they contested in 1999, everybody in Nigeria, people from all parts of Nigeria came out. Even when President Obasanjo was contesting in 2003, people like Abubakar Rimi, Gemade, and the rest of it all came out. They contested, against him. They are from the northern part of the country. At the end of the day, I think the leaders of the party decided that no, we are zoning this thing to the south, especially southwest. So, and at the end of the day, people came out, but they didn't win. Because those that will make, they didn't convince them enough. So I will not be surprised if people from all parts, even if APC says we are going to zone it to the south, I will not be surprised if other people from the north come out to contest, because it's their right constitutionally to contest. But at the end of the day, if the party decides that it's going to be zoned, most likely the person that is going to win the election will be from that zone. But people will have people come out and just exercise their right. Exercising right is different from winning an election. So they can exercise whatever right they want to exercise. Those who will win will win. That's the way I look at it.
But is there merit in the argument for zoning, do you think? As a method of inclusion. Putting aside the legal constraints, putting aside the political constraints, is it, do you think, a good tool to use to foster unity? You know, you talked about the fears about disintegration, and some of those fears are fed by people believing that they are left out of the general developmental process. Do you think zoning, that is this effective, in another way, federal character, if you like, helps to draw in people who, on the basis of democracy alone, could never win an election, could never be elected into any position? I give an example that I was given a while back. In the case of Benue, no one who is not a thief can win an election in Benue if it is only a game of numbers, because they have the majority. I don't know what the situation is in Nasarawa State if there is a majority tribe that has such control, but I'm sure there are other parts of the country that have that same issue. So if you don't make it a matter of policy to say, okay, well, you know, not to let everybody feel that, okay, it's only this group, sometimes we should draw. What do you think?
Okay, let me start from Kogi State. We had this argument, exactly what you are saying about Benue now, that nobody will be a governor until you are, unless you are an Igala. The current governor is not Igala, and he won his re-election. You understand that? In fact, I was there during his primaries, I was there during his election, and he won his election. So you will hear such arguments about people because we still practice democracy of ethnicity, of religion, and those kind of things. We still do that. We are moving gradually. To be honest with you, even the so-called America that we copied this from was doing similar things. You know, so people from the southern part of America, you know, before the 1860 Civil War, you know, were dominating the entire politics of the U.S., you know, from the south. Okay, until gradually it came, and then everybody now, if you look at the population before the Civil War, 1860, all kinds of people from there, before gradually it changed now to balance out. So, but even then, in most cases, they do it now. You will see somebody from the north is president, somebody from the south is vice president, until Clinton. When Clinton from Arkansas now became president, and then he picked somebody from the next state to him, you know, I'll go. And now he became, so his neighbor, you know, both of them Southerners, now became presidents of America. So all those things happen, but they will balance out. You know, eventually you will see how they will balance out one day. I have no doubt, you know, that first let me answer the question you ask. You know, do I think is
meritorious? Is there merit in the
is there
argument?
merit in that? For a country such as ours, there is a lot of merit for balancing and making people feel sense of belonging. That's why you have all these traditional rulers all over the place, even the same tribe. Okay? You have Alafin of Oyo. When you go, you have Ife. When you go, they are all Yorubas. You know, I prefer to give example with something that you know very well. You know, so and then they are the same people, but everyone wants his own kingdom. He wants to be able to do that. I believe in every state of Nigeria. This is my conviction. In every state of Nigeria that you go, you will find a good man that can be president of Nigeria. I believe so. And if that's the case, why don't you rotate and give the people the opportunity to present that person? You know, you have mentioned that there are certain people without rotational, you know, leadership that may never win election. Yes, there may be. But in most cases, you know, people, when they are brought forward, okay, there are also a lot of people in this country that will not go, like in Benue you mentioned, there are a lot of thief people that did not vote for the current governor. You know, they voted somewhere else. Okay, and there are people who will vote for people who are not from the same tribe with them. In Nasarawa State, the dominant tribe that we have contested for election since 1999. They have never won. That's the dominant price. Because as far as we are concerned, we have dominant tribes. But the one that has the highest number, based on the numbers in terms of population, has never won the election of being a governor in the state.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
No, because I think...
Just for education?
No, I think in our own, we have some level of elite vote in our own state. So the other tribes come together to say that, no, we don't have a good candidate in this. We must have a good candidate somewhere else. And then they do that. So, because you may be a dominant tribe, but when the other tribes get together, they become more dominant than you are. And I think in our own case, that's what has been happening. So, and the moment you begin to make it that our own tribe, then other people begin to get scared. Okay? So, and I will tell you the truth, that in our own situation, it's maybe something similar to that. Okay? I have not been in active politics in the state for long. But as somebody from the outside, I could see what was happening, and I think that is probably the result of what is happening. So, rotational presidency, personally, I believe in it. I think it is one thing that will give us stability, will give us unity, will give us some level of trust among ourselves. And we have had wonderful presidents from southern part of the country who have been very kind to the northern part of the country. We have had presidents from the northern part of the country that have been very, very kind. Especially, see our current president. To be honest with you, go and see what he has done in the southern part of the country. Even in the southeast, that there is a lot of cry. The moment you bring out all the projects that he has awarded and done this, he has done a lot, for the south. So the same thing when you talk, for instance, Obasanjo did a lot for the northern part of the country when he was president. The same thing with Jonathan. So I think the question of this and that, Gowon did more that time, even though it was not democracy. Gowon did more for Lagos than he has done for any state. Okay? Gowon is from, you can pick him Kaduna where he lived, or originally being an Angus from Plateau. So these are the kinds of things that you go. And I'm really hoping that we'll continue in that direction so that we will now have people from particular sections of the country, and they will put efforts for the entire Nigeria and consider. Those are the kind of things that will bring us more and more together. But zoning, I'm a pro-zoning governor, and I think it's never hidden. I think those who know me can see zoning clearly written on my...
But has anyone from the southeast who's, as you pointed out, their cry has been most vociferous about the 2023 one? Do you think they have a case?
I don't think they have a case in our own party. Maybe in PDP they have a case, I don't know. You see, you can't be crying when you are not even in that party. You understand that? With due respect to people like the Minister of Science and Technology, the Minister of Labor, those are the key, maybe Okorocha and the rest of that. These are people who came out. But the battalion of the majority of the people are probably in a different party. So when you have that kind of arrangement, you can't be saying in that party you must have leadership. I'm not saying they cannot have leadership in another party. There are no problem about that whatsoever. Probably they will. But I think if they come into our APC and say, also we came in, a lot of them just converted and came back to APC and say, okay, we are here now, we have come back, so you must give us leadership. I think it will be unfair to our party if somebody does that. So that's just my own,
your own
opinion about that.
Some other issues have become contentious also. I was speaking with your counterpart from Jigawa State, and I asked him this question a couple of weeks ago about the issue of VAT. Now, of course, given your own background, I'm sure you're quite familiar with this subject. There is controversy now. In fact, there is a court case over the issue of the collection and the sharing. Many people say they suspect that the two are linked, and that if you solve one, the other one would naturally go away. But what do you think? Because the other governors who are quote and unquote disadvantaged in this say that if it goes ahead and it's the people who collect the most who then keep most of the VAT, they will also have to introduce some other measures to show up their own revenue, and that at the end of the day, the result may be chaos. Where do you stand?
I start with the last one you have just mentioned. You see, the issue of VAT, I will talk from the point of the person paying VAT. Because in Dangote, where I work, in Dangote Sugar, we were paying 5% VAT before I left. For every 50 kg bag of sugar that we were selling, whether at the time was 10,000, 15,000, or 20-something thousand naira, that is today, we are paying that 5%. Now, the point of production is Lagos. And so the point of payment being captured is under Lagos. The biggest market we had in Nigeria was Kano.
Now talking about sales.
Yes. Okay? Well, it's 5% of what you are selling. So the consumption part was not Lagos. But the collection part of that, the beneficiary of that is Lagos. Because that's where the factory is situated. Okay, so we're paying that. So the argument brought up by people like him, because he's a businessman too, he understands this, the governor of Jigawa that you mentioned.
Yes.
He's a businessman, very experienced gentleman. So the point he brought forward on that is about these kinds of issues. Yes, there is sales tax, but yes, VAT is an important element of, that's why I told you I belong to the last group, that if you bring it up, most people also who don't have this may say, all right, as you are bringing this product into us, we are also, and the consumption is here. The number one biggest customer of mine at the time was Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was buying roughly about 10% of my entire production. 10%, 12%. They had 11 plants. Majority of the plants were here in the northern part of the country, where they were selling the sugar to. In Lagos, they had 2 plants. They had one in Apapa, one in Ikeja. The next biggest customers were individuals. Okay, 3 in Kano, 1 in Maiduguri, and the rest of that. Then the least part of the market was actually, in the southeast part of the country, and then south. So that's the argument that people like him are bringing, and that's also my argument. Because if somebody else is enjoying the entire VAT, and I'm here going through the difficulty, then I have to find a way to introduce something also. Then the customer suffers. When the customer suffers, as long as the price, this is the law of supply and demand now,
yeah.
Going into this thing. The moment the prices are too high, people don't buy. So the manufacturing suffers. Okay, so that is what is going to happen. So it's a vicious cycle to keep going around. Well, when you have governors who know what they are doing, who understand what it is, you can't just toss them around with this kind of argument and think you can go free with it. Now, and now coming back to why is VAT important now? Let us give credit where credit is due. Why is it important now? Why was this argument not there during Jonathan's administration, or El-Adua's administration, or Obasanjo's administration? Why is it now? It's because today we have had people, we have had leaders, we have plugged some of the leakages, we have had less corruption in the system, and VAT is going to 3 times where it used to be during the administration of Muhammadu Buhari. It has jumped from less than 800 billion to now over 1.5 trillion. So when people see that, oh, there is money in it, and that's when the argument is coming. So I think as they are pushing the argument, let them also give some kind of credit to those that have made VAT attractive now that we are even doing this. So if we go back to where VAT was not properly paid at all, who will worry about this? So that is the issue.
Let me bring you to Nasarawa State itself.
Yeah.
Now, Nasarawa State is one of the poster states on the issue of ranching and talking about the herders-farmers clashes. Nasarawa, of course, when I spoke to you last, Nasarawa was already in ranching, but the issue has assumed a much bigger dimension now, especially with the fact that other people are also making the argument. Your colleagues in the South, across party, said they were going to stop the open grazing thing in the South. Many of them passed laws to that effect. But then some of your colleagues also in the North now also said, well, let's wait and see them implement it. That is still, there. I raised this, or I provide this background because I also want you to situate what is going on in Nasarawa with what is going on nationally. Because you also made the comment, you were reported as having made the comment that it seems as if with the result of all this anti-open grazing, a lot of herders moved into Nasarawa up to the point where they were now presenting some kind of security threat at a point. So against all this background, what is the situation now?
Let me make it categorically clear. All the 19 northern governors sat down in Kaduna and said that open grazing is outdated, is out of fashion, and we should do away with it. Even those who are carrying out the open grazing are not benefiting from it. Because a Fulani man that will take his cows from Maiduguri and walk those cows all the way to the southern part of the country to go and sell, before they get there, the cows are tired. A cow that will be able to give the Fulani man maybe 8 liters of milk, he will be lucky if he gets 2. And then the meat in there, nothing. And apart from the fight that he's having along the way, constantly, by the cows going into one farm and then that. So he said it's outdated. It's out of fashion. We said that. Now, what we agreed is, now that it is out of fashion, what do we do with the people? Because you can't just wake up. That's the way I think. I can't just wake up. Let me put myself as an example, not you can. I can't just wake up tomorrow in Nasarawa State. The easiest is to have the law. Easiest, very easy to have the law. You take it to the House of Assembly, you convince the House of Assembly, the law is passed, I sign. Then implementing it becomes a problem. Okay? So what happened to all these people that are probably in one bush or the other? And they have, majority of these Fulanis don't live in the city. They are in thick bushes. So who is going to follow them there to do that? So you spend so much first on security. When you go, that's why unfortunately in Nasarawa today, when they cross the border to go and see if they could arrest the open grazing cows, they end up killing the cows. Are we helping Nigeria with that? So one time you will see 50 cows shot and killed. And I frown at that. I say it's very unfortunate that we are having such a situation. So in Nasarawa, what we said is that, yes, it's outdated. Yes, it is out of fashion. But before we pass the law, let's make provision for the Fulani people. Let us give them an option, similar to direct and indirect. I always like option. I say let's then give them option first. And the option, we found it in NLTP. Okay, the National Livestock Transformation Project. We found it in that. So the Netherlands government, together with the federal government of Nigeria, had this partnership, of joint sponsorship with the state government as the third leg, provide the land that we require, give us the structures that are there, provide security in the area, will come and build a grazing reserve. Every state, to the best of my knowledge, has one grazing reserve or the other, unless it's now built on top of that. Otherwise, in our earlier laws, they were already designed, they were there, including Lagos. Okay, so what we said is that we go ahead and provide one, and in Nasarawa we have so much land. Nasarawa is sitting on almost 27,000 square kilometers, so we have the land. So we say, all right, we create this land, 6,000 hectares of land or 8,000 hectares of land, and we say, no problem, come in. You can build on top of it. You provide the security, the Fulani people with a school so that they can even go to school. A lot of them now are roaming around. They don't know what school is, whether Islamic school or Western education. They don't have any. So it's an opportunity for you now to go to school. We have security for you. We have health services for you. There will be some kind of clinic, for you to go ahead and do that. They are Nigerians, so they should benefit also from some of the things that we provide the people in the city. In the city, we provide water, we provide electricity, we provide this as government. So we are providing the same. We say, okay, we are providing the same for you in this ranch. And then we are going to plant the kind of grass that you require. And come in, bring your cattle and rear in that area. Don't move outside this area. With that, they can feed their cows properly. The cows can give them 8 to 10 liters of milk a day. So if the Fulanis are enjoying that, why do you think they will leave to go to somewhere else? A cow that you suppose he should be selling, under open grazing at maybe 250,000, now he can sell it at 400,000 naira. So they will love that. So I think that there is abattoir where people who want to buy, all these butchers can go in there, buy the meat, and bring it to the city to sell. So that's what we are building. In Nasarawa, we have gone far. We are building the first one, the first model. Other states are doing their own, but our own is the first under NLTP. And we have gone far on it. I just had a meeting with them, in fact, this week, with Dr. Kwasari, and he's doing a fantastic job together with his team, that came in from the Ministry of Agriculture, from the Netherlands, and the rest of that. So for us, we believe that will be our solution.
But Nasarawa also has farmers. So while you're doing that for the herders, what's going on with the farmers? Because the shall we say, confrontation is between two parties. So what's happening with the farmers? Are you providing the farmers with anything also to cushion their own situation, especially in the aftermath of those?
No, our farmers have always had a very good deal with us in Nasarawa State. I just, coincidentally, just this week, I launched the distribution of fertilizer and other inputs, to the farmers. So the MPK that they are buying between 14,000 to 15,000, we are selling to them 7,000. Okay, so we are doing that. The federal government came and gave us some chemicals free. We transported them to Nasarawa. As we received them free, we are giving them free to them. So if there are opportunities that come in where we are going to have, in fact, our farmers are going to have even better opportunities now, because we are having big commercial farmers coming into the state, the Dangote, the flour mills, the Azman rice, the Olam, and the rest of that. We now ask them, go ahead, give them seedlings, the best seedlings that they can maybe farm rice. Today, they go into hectare, they just get about 3 tons of rice per hectare. Then we say, give them seedlings, Olam. Give them good seedlings that they can go and be able to give you anywhere between 7 to 8 tons per hectare. So the farmer is the one, getting ready. So I think that's what government is. Government is just to bring the relationships together, for people's life to be improved.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's today's episode of NewsNight. Thanks for watching. Would like to know what you think of the issues raised during this conversation. Our social media handles are right there on your screen. You can also listen to this and previous episodes of the program via our podcast. Please visit our website, channelstv.com, to get started. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Goodbye.